So I recently released a video describing in more of a tutorial format how to beat aggressive tank rushes in Warno, and I had a worked example and I just spoke through it. So rather than me casting a game, the game, I'm showing it with a very clear motive and it's more of a guide. And it's done quite well. Views are 2.1 times higher than usual, right? And as my channel continues to circle the drain, we must look for ways to hold back the night. And so I had another idea. I was in a game recently, and basically, here I am, S Pain, on the bad side of Two Lakes Duel. We've all been there. Very popular map. Popular as in it's always in the ranked pool, and they just never get rid of it. Not popular as in good. It's not actually good. And we've all been there. So for those of you who have been living under a rock, this map is really quite one-sided. Red is on the good side. The great part about being on red side is that you can forward deployed rush into Oscar and into Zulu faster than blue can get to either. Now, if you're on the bad side and your enemy's an airborne div, in this case 35Y VDV, the quintessential airborne div, they have airborne forward deployment, and to make matters worse, I don't have any airborne forward deployment in my division except some sniper squads, which I don't bring, right? So I don't have any airborne forward deployment. He does have airborne forward deployment. He's on the good side, so it's a huge advantage for him because he basically gets both towns for free. So this is a very common problem, particularly on this map. Happens all the time in ranked and people get upset. So yeah, it's red-sided because they get both of the towns super fast with their forward deployment. You can't stop them. And furthermore, Ligma is way closer to Zulu than Alpha, X-Ray, or Papa. So they can go from Zulu to Ligma a lot more easily then you can go from Zulu to Alpha or from Oscar to X-Ray, or they can go from Oscar to Papa, right? It's just this should really just not be here. This whole town should be down here somewhere, basically, if they wanted to make it fair. So there's a double whammy there, and that affects how you have to deploy, right? So I'm playing as the 1st Spanish Division. They have one airborne forward deployed unit, as I mentioned. And you got to think about this logically, right? He's going to get to both zones first. Okay, that's logic part 1. Logic part 2. If he wants to attack further, he can attack Lima way more easily than he can attack Papa. Okay, so what do? You have to rush Zulu. You have to attack Zulu. Maybe not a full rush. You can play it slower than I play it here, but you need to attack Zulu as soon as possible. You have to deploy most of your forces here. And it's obvious why. Because if you try and fight equally over both zones, he gets there first in both cases, so you're going to lose. If you go hard in on Oscar, he can attack Lima, right? You have 3... I've made a real pig's ear of this, but you have 3 options available to you. You can go on Zulu and on Oscar, in which case you will probably lose in both places because he will be defending, you will be attacking in 2 places into a town. Or you can go hard in on Oscar, in which case he will attack Lima if he has a brain. So you have to go hard in on this area here. You have to fight for Zulu. You don't have a choice. It's just the way the map's set up. So that's the first thing. Because I see people against Airborne, they're like, I'll hedge my bets, I'll try and go for Oscar a bit. And no, you're gonna lose against a competent player, or at least against a player of similar skill level to you. They should beat you if you go for Oscar. So look at what I'm doing here. I've got a few of these, so this is sort of like an LAV that the Americans get. It's a little bit worse, but it is a little bit cheaper, I think. And I've got a picket line here, right? So I don't want him to get into Papa, but Papa's really quite easy to defend because there's a big open field here. So I've got an LAV, a VEC going to there, a VEC going to there. A vet going to here, which ended up being a mistake, actually. It should have been back here, because he actually gets to here first, and he shoots me. And then here I've got an AA gun, a towed AA gun. This division doesn't get any airborne forward deployment. It doesn't get any man pads either. So basically I just need a bit of AA here in case he goes for helicopters on Papa. And it can also shoot the infantry. And a TOW 2 launcher, which doesn't have a machine gun, so it can't shoot the infantry, so I need this. And a very cheap CV, so 40 points CV for Papa, because it's a +2, right? If you take Ligma and Papa, and he takes Alpha, X-Ray, Zulu, Oscar, he'll only be on a +2. But if you don't cap these, then it'll be +4, +6. So it's kind of a big deal. You've got to make sure you cap these as close to the start as possible. Then on the left, I want to attack Zulu. Now, the core of this strategy, something you absolutely cannot forget, is this thing. The mortar for smoke. Doesn't have to be this specific model, right? It helps if it's self-propelled because it stops you from getting counter-batteried. But you need a mortar for smoke if you're pushing into airborne. If you're pushing into anybody, it's useful, but pushing into airborne is extremely useful because how does airborne defend territory? It defends territory with ATGMs, anti-tank guided missiles. These are slow. Unlike a tank gun, which just goes pow, and either it hits you or it doesn't, this lazily zooms across a field, and as a result, it's much cheaper than the comparable tank gun. But it does have longer range, and they can use that to lock down areas very easily. How do you stop that? You just shoot smoke in front of it, and then it can't shoot you. Dead simple. You need this. It makes pushing so much easier. Then I'm doing something which... So this is like a general tip, right? Then I'm doing something which is very specific to this map, which is I'm trying to secure this appendage here. The whole of Zulu rests on this, right? I know what you're thinking. This is so important to the defense of this zone, it is unreal. Why? So, if Blue takes this, he can shoot Red's reinforcements. All the way down that road he can shoot them, which means that Red has to path them here, and then path them up here, and if Blue has an ATGM here, he can shoot them there as well. So, very important for Blue. Conversely, it's extremely important for Red, because if Red gets to here, Blue can't get into Zulu, because this road's covered, this road's covered, this road's covered, and he's getting shot, so he'd have to come down here, and this is a very, very easy place to defend because of this town here. 1 ATGM, they're not getting in there. So this little forest here, I cannot bang on about this enough. This is extremely important to owning this zone. Let's have a look at the rest of the deployment. So, yeah, I've got a Jeanette going here. So I just need a recon infantry to be able to see the front of the town. Because the idea is I'm going to unload a bunch of infantry here and just run in, covered by fire support. And a VEC-25 trying to take this area. Another VEC-25 coming to here. So the idea is, this is also a very important spot, you can be in forest cover and shoot all the way down here. It's better with like a tank, right? Because it can shoot further. But either way, you can shoot all the way down this road, which is, look, all the infantry comes down this road when they try and get into this zone. So it's very important. And then we've got a supply, another supply, satchel infantry, anti-tank infantry, towed AA gun, because they're good against infantry. For some reason, the Spanish pay 5 points more than the West Germans do for the exact same gun. Another towed AA infantry is going around here. 40mm grenade launcher. So the idea is, well, okay, we'll get to it. Mortar for smoke, which we spoke about, and then a bunch of light tanks. The reason the light tanks are better is because the enemy doesn't have heavy armor because he's an airborne division. So, you know, you don't need something that can kill heavy armor. So I've got 3 of those, 1 for here so it can shoot down there, and then 2 short range ones to shoot into the town. And then the CV for Ligma. My opponent is doing something fairly predictable, right? He's got a CV for X-Ray Oscar. He's got a CV for Alpha Zulu. And then he's got a bunch of airborne forward deployed guys going into Oscar who would get there before me, right? Even if I had airborne forward deployment, I would get about here when he gets there. If I have recon deployment, he can just get in the whole town before me. Then he's also taking this point with some airborne forward deployment. Recon, ATGM. I'd like to take the time to thank the generous channel joiners generously joining the channel. They get their names on the screen, they get the videos early, they get members exclusive videos. One join at the lowest levels with 2,000 views in ad revenue equivalents, and this is my sole source of income, which is why I shill so much. I'm trying to make the channel financially viable so I don't have to get a job. ATGM vehicle. Then he's got 3 helicopters, which is a bit weird, actually. People don't usually do this, because there's no point. If you're the airborne div, why would you open helicopters? Because you're already going to get there first, and you have really nice forward deployed AA, so why... Anyway, he's done that. So he's got a recon unit going here. But actually, the fact that he did this really messed me up, because I didn't expect him to do it, because it is suboptimal. So that's something to be said for optimal strats and so on. You don't want to be too predictable. Also, if you put airborne forward deployment to here, blue actually will get there first, because I've got a nice straight road to here, whereas his guys have to come here and then across. Or down here and then up. So I'm pretty sure the VEC would be in there otherwise, even if it's recon deployed, not airborne deployed. So, yeah, he's got the armed transport guy, whatever, rocket helo, scout helo, and then 2 Spetsnaz OP, which are anti-tank, 2 Spetsnaz regular, which are anti-infantry, Conkers in a Conkers vehicle, so Conkers is going there, and then the vehicle's going here, so he can shoot anybody coming this way. Igler in a Scrashit, which is an AA gun, and Igler in a Scrashit. So let's watch the game. Obviously, because I'm making the guide, you know the outcome. And yeah, do let me know if you want me to keep making this kind of guide. I mean, it did a lot better than the regular gameplay. Obviously, I could just cast this as a regular gameplay video and not tell you how it's going to end and be... I mean, still with the casting, I do try to be analytical about it, but I suppose it's just people see this video, they know it has a very specific point, and we hammer in on that specific point, rather than trying to build intrigue or whatever. So I don't like, disguise what's going to happen, so it can be surprising. So, the idea is when you're taking a town, so I have a video called How to Attack, and it's literally this. And I'll link it in the description if you want to watch that properly. It goes into more detail, but the idea is there's phases in the attack. The first one is getting troops into the edge of the town, and for that you need fire support so that the enemy can't just sit in these edge buildings, right? So your infantry can actually get in without getting shot. Anyway, so you gotta... Let's just stop there, right. First of all, you gotta think... You got to be a little bit reactive. It's not like a cookie cutter, just do this exact same thing every time. This is a real-time strategy game, right? And so I see the 3 helicopters. I've got my towed AA guns coming. Sadly, I don't get any manpads, so this is the best thing I can do. But I noticed, okay, he's got 3 helicopters, and they're shooting me, but he doesn't have an ASF. He doesn't have a jet to defend them. And the division... and this is true of all the airborne divisions, does not have long-range AA. So Spain is in a rough spot against helicopters in general, so it's a good strat against my division in general, because the only way for me to kill this is to buy a 260-point fighter, which is a whole minute's income, which is not really what I want to be spending my points on right now, because what I really want is a bunch more infantry to help me get in here, and maybe a tow vehicle for this, and maybe a long-range AA piece in case he, tries to bomb me or whatever. But because of the heavy helicopter investment, I have to buy this, and I send it at the helo, right? So I can get everybody else into position. You'll notice that when, I saw this was here, so I don't just run into it and die. I mean, it sounds super obvious, but I see this so often. They're just like, well, I've already, it's too late to stop it. And they'll just keep driving down here, and you'll just watch them get blown up by units they can see. You can stop in the open. If it stops you from dying, it's a win. So, 40% ECM, I go on this. It doesn't quite one-shot it, but it does damage it. And then these Toad AA guns, right, I'm messing him up with those. So he stopped me from getting to here, which is actually a really big deal and a really good play from him. Also, I didn't realise that an OP Spetsnaz there could shoot me there. So I come back in for the helos because he didn't land them or anything, but then I get hit by the Igloos. I'm 40% ECM, but he fired a lot at me. Anyway, because he's on the edge of the town, and I have a bunch of fire support, grenade launcher, tank, AA gun, right, autocannon, there was an autocannon there, but it died. He shows up, he kills something, and then everybody hoses him down. So that's phase 1. Anyway, I thought this was dead, and it just wasn't, so it killed me. So I'm not following my own advice there, but you see that phase 1 has been completed. We've secured the edge of the town. Now we move to phase 2. And this is exactly what I said in my how to attack video, except there I cover it in a lot more detail, the different tools you can use and so on. So I will link that in the description. So what am I doing with this? This is smoking behind his spawn. Why? If he has a BMP2 back here, I don't want it to shoot my infantry. So this, I can move it around. It doesn't always have to fire there. But the idea is I'm trying to cut off his fire support so it can't shoot me. In the meantime, I'm trying to kill this guy so that I can get up to here. Phase 2 is to cut the enemy's reinforcement road, right? That ends up being a bit problematic. Over on this side, it went sort of the way you'd expect. This guy, he got kind of lucky, frankly. He should be dead, Mr. Frutos. But he got to here, they're just infantry and cars, so they can't really push here anyway, and even if they could, they'd get shot. So he got Oscar. He is on a +2, but keep in mind, right, this is something else that is very important to consider. People, they're like, it's all red, he's on a +2, oh! He would have to be on a +2 for the next 25 minutes to win, right? You have time. You don't have to play super duper fast, right? I like playing fast, but usually the idea is just slow down a little bit. You've got time. You've got time to get up the additional AA, the additional reinforcements. I'm pushing too aggressively here, right? So you see that he's got Spetsnaz in here, and the Spetsnaz kill my dinky little... Like, this is a satchel squad, but this is the best anti-infantry in the game. So, well, one of them anyway. So he's messing me up, as you might expect, right? This is 90 points, this is 40. So he's routing me and so on. And now I've switched up my smoke to smoke the Conkers, because this is such a good spot. I didn't realise that putting a Conkers in here stops me from doing this strat where I shoot down there. I didn't realise that. So that's a learning for me, that if you put a Conkers in this house, people can't sit here and shoot you, if you've got recon, right? So we get the infantry in, and I'm trying to cut his reinforcement road. So he makes a mistake here, he just buys 2 arty pieces, which was really dense. What he needs right now is to stop me from taking this. This is very, very important, and get a bit more infantry in there. But yeah, so the smoke, we switch it up. And then we get some, we smoke here, and then we can get the CV in. I'm trying to cycle my infantry as best I can. An interesting thing about this game compared to Wargame Red Dragon is that, if you get a unit and you try attack moving around, there will be gaps where you can actually shoot through the town and you can actually help out. So he's taking some shots here. But look, he's noticed, okay, he's got this, I need to try and do something about this. So he's getting, BMD2 there, right? I clumped up my guys, 4 in a building, terrible idea, so I lose 2 of them, and almost lose the 3rd, so that was just a terrible idea. I do lose the 3rd, so I lost 3 out of 4 units there because I put them all in one building. Anyway, this is important. Very cool piece of kit, this. People say, I say people, there's just one extremely opinionated person who says that, there's no point, MLRS in 1v1 is dead. And I'll admit, it's definitely less popular, but this is a very good use case of it, actually. This is a very cool Spanish MLRS, and you can do the same with a Grad. Don't bring a Urigan. But they're just bad because they're bad. And, you know, from the line, we know he's in this corner, and they're always in this corner anyway. Like, where else would he be? He can't be in these buildings because the tanks would get him, the grenade launcher would get him, and so on. You'll notice that I'm trying to move up to here, right? And if I get an ATGM into here, that would be big, but I don't think I actually do it this game. I did buy a Hilo, which was probably a mistake, actually. But yeah, we've got a bit of AA coming, and look, so now we've got 40mm coming in. We know exactly where he is because we were here before and he wasn't there. And you'll see that we actually end up killing both Spetsnaz here. Over here there's some shooting going on. But yeah, we kill both Spetsnaz and we damage a bunch of other stuff. So I end up cancelling the volley with like 7 left, but I shouldn't have done. You'll notice artillery splashes in this game are really dumb. This guy's just surviving all that. He should be dead, really, but it is what it is. Anyway, he buys a seed, which is another poor decision. The point of the seed is that it allows you to use your air assets, and 35 wide doesn't get amazing bombers. I mean, it gets an LGBT, but basically he's investing a lot of points into these supporting assets, which should have instead been spent on infantry and BMDs to sort this out. I imagine if these two hadn't been purchased, but they are useful in general because you can use them to kill the 20 mils. But yeah, he can't use his helos very effectively against me because of the set me's. Although then again, I mean, he ends up using it quite effectively against me. So he does get very unlucky there in that the seed dies to this from 2 hits, which is I wouldn't say surprising, but it is unlucky. But it doesn't make a difference because the seed, it got something for starters, but what is that seed doing for him? You know, it doesn't make any sense for him to have that. Anyway, this is still here and it's doing my head in. This guy is killing loads of my units. He killed both of the AA guns, he killed a VEC-25, and I think he gets this as well. So I guess that's the idea behind the seed, to try and, you know, kill any radar AA, but I don't get mobile radar AA. I get this ground-based thing called an ASPID, which is terrible. Anyway, and you'll notice he constantly had a jet up to stop me from just flinging another F-18 into it, but we got it with a mix of, you know, everything, and this is very smart from him, right? He's trying to move up here so that he can kill me. And stop me from owning this, because this stops him from reinforcing, right? He has to bring everything on this dumb path. Now, look at what I'm smoking. I'm smoking this so the BMDs don't kill me. Over here, right, Spetsnaz is moving up, and I'm moving the AMX-30, but that's just more of a tactical thing. It's not much of the strategic layer. The strategic layer is, I'm in here now, and I'm trying to get to the CV. This really did a lot of work for me. Sadly, you know, I should have had a supply out for it quicker. I should have rotated this around to there so that it had a CV so it would reload quicker. I might reload in 80 seconds instead of 135. But yeah, you know, I'm using armor against anti-infantry. This can shoot in the forest at close range, but if it's on fire it can't, and, you know, in the front armor it wouldn't do much to this. But look, he's still got a pretty good defensive position. And yeah, I'm trying to get more infantry in, but what I've purchased is incorrect. So, satchel, 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 okay, but these guys don't have anti-tank. Anyway, so he buys an AT plane, which was for this, I suppose, but my Hornet doesn't kill it, and then it dies even though it's got 40% ECM. So if any of these guys had AT, all this would be dying in its transports, but they don't. So that's a poor purchasing decision. So yeah, a bit unlucky there for me, and then it died. But he got unlucky with the seed before, and it's not affecting the overall strategy of what's happening here. You know, we didn't kill the AT plane and we lost the Hornet. That's going to matter in like 5 minutes when the AT plane comes back and I don't have the Hornet. But yeah, this was a bit of a mistake from me. You'll notice I'm losing everybody. He has very good infantry, right? And he's using the artillery exceptionally well, actually. So these are at 2 vet. They've got a nice low reload time. So I could hit them with this thing. Anyway, I buy an AT plane for this because I'm conscious of the fact that I don't have anything that can kill it. You know, this guy I suppose can kill it, but I see the Afghansky and I really want to kill this because, I don't know, frankly, I could have just bowed my time, but this is Spain's best thing. This is like the best part of the Spanish division. It's like the only good part of the Spanish division. It's the only thing that puts it ahead of everything else. It's an F-18 with Mavericks on it, so it's got 40% ECM and it's an AT plane. Frankly, it should be a bit more expensive, but... yeah, it's very good, because, look, you can just fly over the enemy AA. I know there's no, like, Cubs there or anything, because I know he's playing 35Y VDV. Anyway, he does actually get me there. It turns out this can shoot the whole length of that. And, yeah, we hit some things with basically what I should have done is this guy should be here. But I figured, I know there's a Conkers in here. If I can only kill him, I'll get him. And I've got so much here. And once we get to here, we can do the same thing, right? You'll notice I had a Vec here, and I slowly moved it up, and it's now over on the right side. And at this point, like, he shouldn't have bought this additional artillery. That was kind of dumb of him. But if he had acted in a more optimal way, right, he would have, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 more infantry here. But, you know, if you continue to adhere by the principles I've taught you, you should still win in that case. It will just take longer. So yeah, you shouldn't have bought the arty. So then we hit the arty, and basically at this point it's over, right? So we can... Because the idea is now, okay, he's 300 points ahead, and we're not on a tick, but we have stopped his tick, and he's lost all his guys. And this is a very common problem with Airborne, or at least, you know, a very common solution to the Airborne. He'll just keep chucking things into this town. Obviously, he bought some arty, which was weird, but apart from that, he just kept chucking things in, kept chucking things in, kept chucking things in. And so you'll just be... You should, if you played it properly, be way ahead on trades. So now I can either attack Alpha or I can attack Oscar. I do both because it's just obvious I've won here. But I hope you learned something. So essentially, if you're playing on the bad side of this map versus Airborne and you don't have Airborne forward deployment, you have to put most of your forces here, right? It just makes sense to do it. If you split Zulu Oscar, you're going to lose. Because they're going to get to Zulu and Oscar first, and I bathe myself in that artificial glow, and then they're going to be defending in both places, and then you're going to lose because defending is easier than attacking. If you rush Oscar, the enemy should, if he has a brain, counterattack into Ligma, because Ligma's so close, because you're on the bad side, it's just way more accessible for red to go from here, there, right, than it is for you to do, than it is for you to attack Alpha or X-Ray or whatever. So you need to deploy most of your forces here, and then you come and you take this, you use your smoke mortar to smoke off the enemy positions, and the attack on the town, as in the attack on every position, if you watch the attack video, it has 3 stages. The first stage is, you must get your infantry to the edge of the town. The reason I pick here and not here is because I need this. And so if I'm here, it helps me get this, because I was getting shot in this gap, right? But that's the problem the smoke mortar can solve. The first one is get to the edge of the town. The second one is cut the enemy's reinforcements. Now, we did have a lot of trouble doing that, but we got there in the end. And the third one is take the rest of the town. So use the smoke mortar is a vital part of this strategy, because VDV divs love ATGMs, and you can either buy a 260 point howitzer, or you can buy a dinky little mortar for 65, spend the other 200 on infantry, or 195 on like 4 or 5 units of infantry, right? 4 units. And you know, just smoke off the mortar, and then, you know, he's still there, you just deal with him later. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, do let me know, and I'll make more of these. And I'll just quickly show you the endgame screen. He did make some mistakes, but he also threw some wrenches in the works, right? He defended that little part, but you'll see I had a 2-to-1 KD on him, right? And he's not a bad player. He's in the top 100. So, yeah, hope you learned something, and I'll see you around. GG.